Hey, how's it going? This is Tim Brown, and this lesson is going to be on ways to write content now. So I'm actually going to walk you through the process of making your first blog post. So the first principle is you just got to start. You know, it's difficult, but you just got to put pen to paper, so to speak, really, type. But you just need to get in there and start writing. And I know it's difficult, but once you get a topic, let's say something that a prospect asked recently. Once you get a topic, just start writing. I like the concept of a shitty first draft. And you got to allow yourself to write poorly and then go back and edit. How to get the blog post started? I think a great way to get a blog post started is by telling people, hey, I know you might think this. I know you might think this. I know you might think this. So for instance, if you're talking about replacing your siding, for instance, hey, I know you might think it's easy. I can just tackle it on a Saturday and it's just the cost of materials, right? And then you almost don't even have to say but just yet. This whole blog post is the but to that question. Like, should you do a siding replacement yourself? And you start with these misconceptions. Start a blog post with the misconceptions. And try to say something provocative at the beginning of your blog post. I think the first sentence, think about it this way. The first sentence, the only purpose of that first sentence is to try to get them to read the second sentence. And the only purpose of that second sentence is to try to get them to read the third sentence. And maybe then there's bullet points with misconceptions. And the reason you do this is because you need people to get addicted to reading that blog post. But like I said, do a shitty rough draft and then go back and make this, so delightful or whatever. Just allow yourself the freedom to create. 2, I think a great way, titles are everything, right? The blog post title is huge. And that's why I love including numbers in the blog post title. That's why I include, parentheses, if you can, obviously include videos in your blog post, but create a clickbait title and then do everything in your power to deliver on that title. The blog post title matters so much, right? And then the actual delivering on that is crucial as well. Where to put your keywords? So put your keyword, let's say you've identified a keyword with the tools that we mentioned, SEMrush or Ahrefs. You've identified whether or not to do a siding replacement yourself, right? That could be the blog post. 7 ways to know whether you should do a siding replacement yourself. And then in the meta title, let's say in Yoast SEO or Rank Math on WordPress, the DIY siding replacement has to be at the front of the meta title. So DIY, if that's your keyword, DIY siding replacement has to be at the very beginning. And then maybe put the numbers, 7 ways to know whether you should do it. You're essentially front loading the meta title with the keyword. Then you put the keyword at the beginning of the blog post, somewhere in those first 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences. Make sure the keyword phrase is up there. Then at the end of the blog post, make sure that DIY siding replacement is down there. And then in subtitles, so, in WordPress allows you to add like an heading to tag, just in the WYSIWYG editor, the what you see is what you get editor. The adding a heading tag is really a good way to break up the text, but you also want to include the keyword that you've determined in those headings. And then also somewhere throughout the blog post, you want to include that keyword in a bolded sentence. So maybe don't just bold the keyword phrase because that can look a little cheesy, but bold a full sentence with DIY siding replacement in it in our example, or whatever your keyword would be. And then one last thing, this is, maybe something you're not familiar with or whatever, but if you add an image, then there's an option for alt text, which is basically used for screen readers. Let's say you have somebody like cleaning off the siding on the side of their house and they're cleaning it off and you put cleaning off siding example, and then I would put dash DIY siding replacement. So use the keyword in the alt text. And then lastly, this is, getting a little bit more advanced, but name the file, the image DIY dash siding dash replacement.jpg. And let's say, you always want to use images that you have rights to. So don't just go on Google and, download them willy-nilly. But let's say you're using Pexels, PEXELS.com, which it has a bunch of free stock photos. You're downloading an image from there. Just right click, save image as, and then change the name right then to the keyword. There's Pic Jumbo. We use Adobe Stock. There's a number of other stock photo things out there that are subscriptions that you can get the price down. Don't pay $50 per image, but get a subscription where you're paying $10-$20 a month, and then you're using a little bit nicer images that don't look cheesy. You don't want it to look like a stock photo. The absolute ideal is that you take an original photo for every blog post on your website, and they look decent, they look nice. So ultimately, if you're out at the job site, take pictures along the way. Take pictures of siding, take pictures of before and afters, take pictures of really nice finished products, and then use those as the featured image and throughout your blog posts. You really want a mixture of images and ideally videos in every single blog post. I'd say 2 or 3 at least on every single blog post. So that might seem like a lot, but that's the ideal. Think about what you want the ideal to be. Don't let that stop you from getting started now, even if you're not doing the ideal. And then how do you end these blog posts? So you've delivered on their promise. You've done the 7-step process to determining whether you should do a DIY siding replacement or whatever it happens to be. So how do you end the blog post? I really strongly suggest not doing a heavy-handed sales pitch. What I suggest is that you really walk people through, hey, here are some disadvantages of doing it yourself at the very end, and then just saying, if you need help, we're here to help you. Make it short, make it simple, even make it clearly separate from the content of the blog post in a way that's like, a space or two, and then add that final sentence. You don't want people to think your website is just promotional. Your blog posts are just promotional. It's just it will get people not coming back to your website. But you can have a pitch, just make sure it's clearly separate. And then my ideal is actually just having a big visual call to action at the end of every blog post. So like an image plus a headline and a button that says, get a free estimate now or whatever. Because then you're allowing people to take an action at the end, but it's not part of the content and it's not confusing people about whether the whole blog post is promotional. So promotion of these blog posts should be like 40% of the total time that you spend blogging. So you think you can just write a blog post and they'll come, right? Well, it's really sad. And if you do that 5 times and you realize no one's coming to my blog post, you have to build in promotion into your blogging strategy. So promotion meaning, hey, I've chosen a keyword that people are actually searching, and Ahrefs, the tool that we use for this, actually tells you difficulty. So you don't want to go after super high difficulty keywords all the time. You want to find ones that are actually a little bit lower difficulty. So finding a keyword that has high volume and a little bit low difficulty is the first part. But then after that, after you're done writing, and maybe you've gone back and edited one time, it's time to share on social media. Make sure it has a great featured image. Make sure it has that clickbait title. Make sure you share on social. Make sure you share on, I like choosing 2 or 3 different avenues. So maybe it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or whatever it happens to be for you. Mine are, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And then, hey, sharing a couple times. So I use a tool called Buffer to actually buffer the post and then send it over the next couple weeks a couple more times out onto social. And you need to find other ways to promote this content. So whether that's, writing for another website and linking back to your stuff, whether it's making sure that the keyword is optimized, whether it's sharing on social, whether it's including in an email, whatever you happen to do, just know that promotion needs to be part of this process. And if you don't have people coming to your website from your content, it's not because the content's bad, it's because you haven't done enough promotion. So those are some tips for writing content now. And of course, getting better with promotion takes time, but it will be some of the best time you've ever spent in your content strategy if you've already been writing blog posts. Join me for the next lesson on winning formulas for Google Ads, and I'm looking forward to that. See you guys.